Welcome to Run the Run the Day, the daily show from the Run the Play network here. I got Josh with me, and we are talking about X factors on the three division leading teams here in the American League. I know I got a few ones that a lot of people are thinking about here, but I think it's going to be fantastic regardless. But before we get started, just a heads up for you guys. The next two daily shows are starting at 9:30 for all our daily viewers out there. Don't forget to join the Discord and use code RTP on Boom for a risk-free bet up to $100. I, for one, would have bet on James Outman, Robin Carlos Correa, and giving me a heart attack last night. But that's aside the point here. How you doing, Josh?
Yeah, I'm better now that Outman caught that ball because I think we all kind of know that Kirby Yates has been almost as big a bust as some of the other relievers in the Dodgers bullpen that they signed. And so the fact that he was able to track that ball down and catch it, I think it kind of saved a few years on my life.
Fun fact, because, me being me, I'm a very sarcastic person. So I tweeted out, I'm like, if Kirby Yates gives up a grand slam here, I'm not watching for a week. So the run scores on the sack fly, I'm like, okay, no big deal. Then I tweet out again, I'm like, oh, if Correa hits a 3-run home run here, I'm not watching for a month. And then when I see him hold the bat, I'm like, oh, God damn it, what have I done? So Thank you, James Outman. You've saved me.
That's why they put him in for a defensive substitution. That's all I got to say.
Amen to that. So we're going to get started today with, let's start with the West, actually, in Houston, because I think their X factor is very, very obvious, and I would be surprised if you and I do not have the same one here, because I have Christian Walker as the X factor for the Astros.
Can you tell me why?
Well, they signed him to be like
hear mine first.
Yeah, I say they signed him to be, a big bat in the middle of the order. Jordan is still out. We don't know when he's coming back just yet. On the year, 230 average, 13 home runs, 87 WRC plus. In my opinion, he is trying to make more contact and less power this year, which is weird, especially given, Houston is a very hitter-friendly ballpark. On top of that, too, he's chasing way more and also making less contact when he does chase. This Astros offense has not been great whatsoever this year. It's been the rotation in the bullpen that's carrying him. And just for him to underperform the way he has, he really needs to step up if Houston wants to go back to the ALCS or even the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. I would actually say that it is Jordan Alvarez if he comes back. Now, if he doesn't come back, or if that's they pull the plug on his season, which I don't think that's going to happen, but I think it actually can be Jordan Alvarez only because he is one of the more experienced players still on that team. Right? You still got Altuve, and he's still a leader in the clubhouse. But Jordan Alvarez is essentially been the cornerstone of their offense for quite some time. As a Dodger fan, right? You always, the fact that we traded him for I can't remember his name for good reason, but
Josh Fields.
A reliever. Yes, Josh Fields. Thank you. And then that didn't work out for us, but it's been working out like crazy for the Houston Astros. Honestly, I think that he's one of those guys that can spark an offense. And so if you get him back and he's playing at the level that he's used to playing at, now we all know that's probably not going to happen right away. But if it does, right, then he's going to be the guy that's going to take their offense and maybe even influence a guy like Christian Walker, right? Because if you're setting up your lineup as a manager and you have a guy like Alvarez, and we all know what he's capable of, the power that he has, the dangerous bat that he is. If you have a guy like Christian Walker hitting in front of him, Christian Walker is going to see better pitches. And if he's going to see better pitches, he's going to hit with more power, right? Because he's going to get pitches like that they're going to be in the strike zone or more around the strike zone, he's not going to be chasing because he's not going to get terrible pitches. So you have to. I think that's why you have someone like Yordan Alvarez, because he does a little more than just hit home runs or things like that. What he does is he makes the situation of a manager planning his pitching staff around him a lot more difficult.
Yeah, because Jordan is truly like I'll say it, he is the best pure hitter in baseball at the moment. Is just the bat to ball skills he has with the power and everything. It is truly incredible to watch him. And I pulled up the Astros lineup from last night to see like who's hitting behind Christian Walker, right? It is Dodger legend Taylor Trammell hitting in the 5 spot for Houston. And this is just a bad lineup. Like Cam Smith, Altuve, fine. Victor Caratini hitting 3 in the big 2025. Walker, Trammell, Dubon, Chas McCormick, Bryce Matthews, Zach Short. And this team is leading their division? What the fuck, man? Like,
yeah, it doesn't really say much one for the rest of the division. If their lack of offense can be leading this division, it tells you how bad of an offense everybody else in that division is. So, yeah, that's why I'm going with Yordan Alvarez. He might just make everyone around him a little bit better.
Yeah, I would have said Yordan, but his injury is so mysterious because I was looking at the news, and last night they said he's on a good pace, he's coming back soon, and then 15 minutes ago, Yordan is being shut down. So I have no idea. If he comes back, absolutely, he is this team's X factor. But I said Walker just because he is playing and he's still hitting cleanup for this team because we don't know what's happening with Isaac Paredes now. Oh, God. Mariners, please just jump this Astros team. I'm sick of them.
I hope so.
The Tigers, on the other hand, going to the Central now. They are so damn good. No one is jumping them in that
Not even close.
Very weak division. But it's all about October for them at this point. And I think in order to have a 6 players I have as the X factor on this team, because I really could not decide here. First and foremost being Jack Flaherty, because I've been on record saying I do not trust the rotation behind Skubal in a playoff series here. And yes, absolutely. I know that Mize and Olsen have been so good, but I don't really necessarily trust them in the playoffs here. So I think Jack Flaherty really has to step up in a big, big way. I get, the home run per 9 number is ugly, but it's always been ugly for Flaherty, quite honestly. So that does not worry me as much. It's in line with his career norm. It's just hitters are not chasing as much against him this year. That's one of the reasons why his walk rate is up so much here. So he's really got to step up in a big, big way if the Tigers do not get a pitching at the deadline. And another player too I have, Tyler Holton, which I looked this up when I was pulling his stats from Baseball Reference. Did you know he finished 15th in MVP voting last year?
Did not know that.
That's how important he was for the Tigers. From 2023 to 2024, he had a 2.15 ERA, a 1.96 ERA plus, and a 0.82 WHIP. This year, he's got a 3.60 ERA, good for a 1.13 ERA plus, and a 1.04 WHIP. Yeah, the cutter just has not been there for Holton this year. And with the Tigers bullpen that, quite frankly, is not as good as the pitching chaos bullpen was this time last year, he has to step up in a big, big way because Jason Foley is not coming back here. Will Vest is doing the best he can to carry this bullpen. They need something from Holton in a big, big way in order to be truly successful in October.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that Jack Flaherty's probably their X factor. He really does. He does really need to come through in the clutch. We saw it last year in the playoffs where he would have one really good game, and then he would be awful the next game, and then he'd be really good the next game, and be really awful the next game. He has to have some sort of consistency, and you're hoping as a team and as a manager, when you're looking at your potential, opponents, you're looking at going on a deep playoff run. The first thing you want to do is get quality innings out of your starting rotation and to go deep into games. And so when you're looking at a guy like Jack Flaherty, he's now the guy, since he went on that World Series run with the Dodgers, regardless of how he pitched. Now he's got the experience. Now he's got the expertise to come in and say, look, I've been here, I've done that, I know how to overcome, I know how to shut all the critics out, I know how to silence the crowd, I know how to do this, right? He's been there, done that. You hope he's learned those lessons for the Tigers this year as he came back after he got traded from the Tigers last year. So you would hope he comes back to this team and is that voice of experience to a team that probably to some degree, I don't want to say they underachieved last year, but obviously they could have probably gone farther. I think that Cleveland just got hot at the right time because I don't think they were as good of a team last year as the fact that they got to the ALCS. And I think you're seeing a little bit of that this year, although they did lose a couple key bats. But I really do think that he's the X factor because he's the only guy with experience in a deep playoff run on their pitching staff. Every other guy, I mean, obviously they went to the ALDS last year and lost to Cleveland, but they do need to have a guy who's going to be, the adult of that rotation and be the motivator of that rotation to say, hey, I've been there, I've done that. This is what we got to do.
Yeah, because for me, I think what I saw in Flaherty when he kind of got blown up in the second starts, ironically enough, both times in New York, is I think they were seeing him for a second time, so they knew exactly what to expect. There was no surprise factor there, because Giancarlo in Game 1 really just turned on a good pitch. I'm not playing Flaherty for that whatsoever. But the Yankees knew in Game 5 more or less how Flaherty was going to attack him, and yeah, they absolutely punished every single mistake he made. And what kind of gives me hope about him is he does not necessarily have to be the guy that's going 2 times in a series here. I think very clearly Olsen and Skubal are going to be pitching games 2 and 1 respectively here. So he is their Game 4 starter. But that veteran leadership, like you were saying, is exactly what he is here for in this rotation. Because Skubal was great, aside from one pitch that cost him the ALCS in the playoffs here. But, he doesn't know what it's like to start a game that can send your team, 1, to the World Series, and 2, win them a championship on the road in a hostile environment. That is exactly the kind of leadership he will provide here. Because I'm not saying Cleveland by any means is a hostile environment here, but you could kind of tell the pressure was getting to Skubal a little bit in Game 5.
Absolutely.
So to have that calming voice just be there to like, hey, this is what I did. This is what, Yamamoto and all the players did when we went down. I think that is going to be a huge, huge thing for the Tigers because this team, they're the best team in the American League. They're the best team in baseball, quite frankly, here. The one thing that will give everyone pause is, do they have the experience? Did they learn enough from last year and what happened in Cleveland and in Detroit in Game 4? And I think they have, especially with Flaherty's leadership. They are 100% the favorites in the American League, and I think they're going to go far for sure. But
I would be surprised if they did not make a deep run into the playoffs, at least to the ALCS.
Oh, yeah, because who would they face right now? Let me pull up the standings. Who would they face in a potential game one of the ALDS here? Because it's not going to be anyone good, I can tell you that much. No. So as the 1 seed, they'd win the 4-5 matchup, so it looks like they would face the winner of Yankees-Mariners. I think they clear both teams very easily because the Mariners pitching staff has not been what we thought it was this year, and the Yankees offense is fine aside from Aaron Judge. So, yeah, they are very clearly the favorites in that potential division series.
Well, that's if the Blue Jays still stick on top of the AL East, and they continue to play the way that they're playing.
Yeah, I don't know what you think about the Blue Jays. Let's get into them now. I've never really been a believer in this team. Like, yes, their offense is fantastic, but the pitching staff for me is just, I don't like it one bit, like whatsoever. I'm not high on this Blue Jays team whatsoever. They're going to crash hard in the next month or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Blue Jays, like I said, it all depends on how about their consistency, which in the past few years they've had zero. And so, again, you have guys on that team who are still young. They still haven't been there yet. We talk about experience. We talk about leadership. They may not have. They have a couple guys on here that you could probably say could have a little bit of experience, but I mean, for the most part, I mean, I'm looking at their lineup and I'm looking at their roster, and I'm not really seeing anybody who I'm super confident, except for maybe Gosman, Scherzer, maybe Springer, maybe that could really even put them to that next level where I'm confident, like, oh yeah, they're gonna make it past. They're gonna even, like I said, like they're even going to hold on to the AL East. I don't really see that happening. I could with this team, there's a lot of guys like Bobichette doesn't have a long history of being consistent player, and he's very up and down. You have, their catcher Alejandro Kirk. I'm just not super confident in Dalton Varsho. I remember watching him with with the Diamondbacks, and I just don't remember thinking this guy was. I mean, he's a great defender, but his bat is not really something that I'm really confident in. So I'm not really seeing anybody on their roster who I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be a guy who's going to, really come through with them and motivate them to stay on top. Whereas you got plenty of guys like that on the Yankees. And so I just don't see them staying on top of the AL East longer than the end of August.
Yeah, and is it weird to say that like they are not even the best team led by a former Astro? Because I think the Red Sox are better than them, quite frankly, here. And I trust Bregman's leadership more than I do Springer's.
Yeah, Bregman was always, when he was in Houston, along with Altuve, were kind of the two leaders of that team for the most part, as far as their lineup was, their position players. So, the fact that one of them is gone, and Boston to some degree, at least for a while, once they got rid of their cancer on their team, is playing a lot better. And so I wouldn't be surprised if you see a Yankees and a Red Sox, either top of the AL East and wild card teams, one of those two.
Isn't it so funny that, the Red Sox get so much better after trading away Rafael Devers, and the
Get
Giants,
worse.
my God, they get worse. The Dodgers, are in the worst stretch of the season by far, worst stretch they've had, I would say, in like 10 years. And they still take 2 or 3 at Oracle
Yeah,
Park.
it's
So
it's
go
interesting.
figure
The
that
only
one.
time the Dodgers had a worse stretch was in 2017, actually, right before the playoffs started. And it was capped off by Rich Hill pitching a no-hitter into the 10th inning, and then they lost on a walk-off home run. I think it was in Pittsburgh because he gave up a walk-off home run in the 10th inning. And I remember thinking, this is probably as bad as it can get. I think they had played like 16 games and lost 14 or something like that. It was something crazy. I don't remember the exact stats, but I remember it was just kind of capped off by this fact that they couldn't get a run in 10 innings, and this guy was throwing this Rich Hill, who actually is back in the major leagues and being called up, and he's already this older guy who doesn't, he's not a hard thrower. He just has control and changes speeds, and he's pitching this gem, and he still can't score a run against the Pirates. So we're just like, wow, come on. So they might have had a worse stretch before, but here's the thing about them is that I'd rather, and I think anyone would agree with me, you'd rather have this kind of stretch now than, let's say, in September, right? And so, yeah, I just don't see, when you get rid of someone who's obviously a cancer and who's obviously not a clubhouse guy, he's gonna be that same guy. He's not changing. He's not changing the way he plays. I mean, obviously he was in the media at minimum. He was a lot more, like I'll play whatever they want me to play. But I'm sitting there thinking, come on, dude. You're not just going to be with the Red Sox and they're trying to make you move and you're just going to be like, no, and just have that attitude the way he does and then go to a new team and just like, oh, I'm going to do whatever they want. Right? Like he's still going to be somewhat of that non-clubhouse guy, selfish, thinking about him, playing for himself rather than the team. And he's going to be that guy wherever he goes.
Yeah, well, you know the old saying, like, actions speak louder than words. Will Clark, a legend in the Giants organization, arguably the greatest first baseman they have ever had, has reached out to Rafi Devers 2 times to teach him how to play first base. Devers has ghosted him, and Clark has said in an interview recently that he will grab Devers and forcefully pull him if he has to teach him first base next time he's in the Bay Area. So that's the kind of player the Red Sox traded away. And yeah, kind of a clubhouse cancer. But let's say we both don't believe in the Blue Jays. But if they hold on, who is the reason why this team holds on and wins the AL East?
I mean, in my opinion, I actually think it's a guy who's not coming back till August, and it's Anthony Santander. And the reason why I think that is true is because, he was the guy that they signed to a major contract. He was their besides Max Scherzer, he was probably their biggest offseason signing at a 5-year deal, $92.5 million. And he had some great years the last couple of years in Baltimore. And so he's coming over, and you're signing him to be that guy that takes your offense and raises the ceiling of your offense. And so with him gone, much like Yordan Alvarez, he's that veteran presence that has that contact ability with power, like I said, to elevate their offense. So without him, like I said, I'm not really in love with their offense. And I'm not really, besides maybe Guerrero, who has not been the power hitter to the degree that everyone expects him to be. And so when you need some other power bat in order to elevate that offense. And again, just like Alvarez, right? He makes people around him better because you see better pitches. So again, we're all hoping he comes back and he's back to his original form. And so just like Alvarez, I'm making that same claim that this is if he comes back and if he's the same player he was before he got injured.
Yeah, for me, like the offense, I have not seen anything from Santander that's going to say, like, yes, he is that guy. And I think the offense, you got to stop hitting Ernie Clement off here. Let's be honest. Like, move up, like Addison Barger, maybe. And I think he'll be a fine leadoff hitter. Maybe put George Springer back in the leadoff position like he was in the Houston days. Like, again, it's not the best offense, but there's enough pieces to where, like, you don't have to worry about protecting Vlad because Bichette and Kirk, I think, are fine enough protection for him at this point. But for me, it's the pitching staff here because I'm looking at it is, yes, you can say, oh, they have above league average pitchers in this rotation. Eric Lauer's got a 151 ERA plus. He's only started 9 games, though. I don't necessarily trust him here. Bowden Francis was good for a little bit here. But, like, the 3 arms they're relying on the most here, like 109, 105, 108 ERA plus here. Not necessarily, like, the 3 guys you want to ride into battle with here in a short postseason series. That's why I'm like, Kevin Gausman has to step up in a big, big way here. Because even at his peak, I was never a true believer that Kevin Gausman is one of the best pitchers in baseball. Yet he has to kind of hit that form here for the Blue Jays to truly, truly be deadly. Is just in their division, he has to match up with Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, and Garrett Crochet here. One of these things is not like the others if you talk about the aces in the big 3. So, yeah, Gausman has to step up and they will get their asses handed to them if they have to face those 3 at any point for the rest of the season.
Well, I think what really is going to be a big factor with Kevin Gausman is if they don't win the AL East. Like I said, we both agree that that's probably not going to happen. But if they do, the home field advantage is going to be key for this team, especially with a guy like Gausman who has 11 straight home wins. And so he clearly pitches way better at home than he does on the road. And so to give this guy a game 1 start and maybe even a game 5 start possibly at home, if they are the tops, are the they have the home field advantage, that's going to be really key. So that's really what's going to happen with this team, is that they're going to need the home field advantage to make any sort of noise in the playoffs, because that's where they play best. And so, especially with Gausman, it's the best place where he pitches best is at home. So you gotta get that home field advantage. You gotta hold on to the AL East, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's very clear this team is not the class of the AL East, and we'll see. I mean, they beat the Yankees last night, but
that's regular season. The whole postseason is a whole different beast.
Yeah.
So it's all about when you play them, not who you play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not to open old war wounds here, but we only lost 4 games to the Padres in 2022. They beat us 3 or 4 in the playoffs. So, actually, the Padres won the season series last year and lost in 5.
It's not about who you play; it's about when you play them.
Exactly. But since we're both not high on the Blue Jays, just for fun and to fill out the rest of the half hour, who would you say is like the key X factors on the Yankees and the Red Sox, since those two teams are clearly who we think is going to win the East?
Well, I would say probably for the Yankees, it's got to be Carlos Rodon. I think he's had a big resurgence behind Max Fried in that rotation. And with a bunch of other injuries that they've had and some other unproven pitchers, young pitchers, I really think that he's going to have to be the anchor of that rotation behind Max Fried. And so if he continues to pitch the way that and honestly, I don't think he pitched poorly in the playoffs last year. He pitched very well. He just got no run support, right? So you can dog him all you want, especially for, pitching, in losing the game last year in the World Series, but he didn't pitch all that bad. He just gave up home runs, which if you're giving up a bunch of, some solo home runs, those aren't incredibly hurtful. Is he walking a lot? Is he, giving a lot of extra base hits? Not something necessarily that he was doing and that he's really doing right now. So if he can continue that trend, I really do think he's going to make that rotation that much more dangerous behind Max Fried.
Yeah, I do agree it is Carlos Rodon, especially because, we all knew it was happening, but Clark Schmidt is out for at least the next year plus with Tommy John surgery here. So we don't know necessarily when Luis Gil is coming back, but he needs to come back now. So with an uncertain timetable on Gil's return and Will Warren and Marcus Stroman as your 4 starter at this point, Carlos Rodon needs to step up in a big, big way here for the Yankees to have any kind of chance of winning this division. And then for the Red Sox, who would you say is the one that needs to step up the most?
I'm going to go unconventional here. I'm going to say it's going to be Alex Cora, the manager.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm going to say that is because he's been touted as this. I mean, obviously he won in 2018, but he's been touted as one of the best managers in Major League Baseball for quite some time. And you really got to think, how is he impacting the Red Sox? How are his decisions going to be playing out in the playoffs? And is he going to be able to make the moves necessary to continue that narrative of him being one of the best managers in baseball? Like I said, excuse me, you got to think about, obviously they got rid of Rafael Devers, but to some degree, and I've said this a lot to many people, that the biggest thing a manager can do is be able to manage all of the egos in the clubhouse. And clearly he couldn't manage Rafael Devers in the clubhouse. That's probably why they got rid of him. Obviously, there's other factors to that. Rafael Devers is a diva, right? We know that. We've talked about that. But to some degree, even with some other managers, like AJ Hinch is a great example of when he was in Houston. Dave Roberts is a great example. Other managers in the past, like Bobby Cox and Joe Torre, guys like that, not only do they have great strategy, but they can manage all of the egos in the clubhouse. And so you got to wonder, is he going to be able to do that? Is he going to be able to make the moves needed to put them over the hump and to start making the decisions that he needs to make and managing the game that he needs to make in order to manage his players, even like Bregman, better?
Yeah, for me, I'm never worried about Alex Cora. I mean, he has won a World Series, but worse managers have also
That's
won
true.
World Series. But it really is the Rafael Devers of it all. Is once he left, like the vibes are just better in Boston. It really is that simple almost. And I get you didn't manage the diva, but I think we can agree Bob Melvin is a better manager than Cora, and Melvin's doing a hell of a job right now of managing Devers. So he's got a good clubhouse culture. He doesn't make the boneheaded move a lot of the time here, so I think he is absolutely going to be exactly who they need to lead them through the rest of the season here. For me, as much as I want to say it's Walker Buehler, I think, is kind of cooked at this point. It really pains me to say. He gave us the last little bit of good pitching he had to help us win that World Series. And, I know I throw around the term Dodger legend sarcastically a lot. No, this man is actually a Dodger legend. But for me, I'm going with Lucas Giolito here. Is the starting pitching market. I don't necessarily know if the Red Sox are going to be buyers of like the short-term rentals, but I don't know if they're willing to give up the prospect capital to go get, let's say, a Sandy Alcantara. I think it's very clear that Freddie Peralta is now off the market from Milwaukee since, they are now somehow the best team in baseball.
Temporary.
So for me, like the question for at least since May has been who is the number 2 behind Garrett Crochet in this rotation. The way Giolito has been pitching these past 7 starts here, he were 2 behind it. Do I think he can keep this up? Not really, but I think if he does, or even close to what he's been pitching like right now, him and Crochet are a deadly 1-2 at top of this rotation. And then Brian Bayo fits perfectly as a 3-starter, handing it off to a very good bullpen. And that is exactly what the Red Sox need to be a deadly team in the postseason. Yeah, so give me Lucas Giolito as the Red Sox X factor.
Can't argue with that.
Yeah. And that's going to do it for today's show here. Before we get going, anything else you'd like to add today, Josh?
Nope. I think we've covered it pretty good.
Yeah. So don't forget, code RTP on Boom Fantasy, risk-free bet up to $100. Join the Discord server. The trivia has been incredible, and you could win $25. Just join. The questions are fantastic here. Do not forget to like and subscribe here at the Run the Play Network, and don't forget on the way out.